Some of the University of Maine's historic buildings now serve as a part of Hotel Ursa, a new independent hotel. The hotel, displaying features and artifacts of the university's history, opened to the public this week. Over the last couple of years, the university has been working with a developer to convert Coburn and Holmes halls into the boutique hotel. Both halls are among the oldest buildings at UMaine. They were officially designated as such by the National Register of Historic Places in 1978. There are now 95 rooms and suites available, and there is also a cafe and bar open to guests and members of the campus community. The hotel is inspired by the Ursa Major and Minor constellations and the North Star that connects them. The general manager tells us the goal is to become a destination location.
Yes, we're on campus, and that's wonderful, and we will work with all the different departments, but we also want people that are just looking for a unique experience. Somebody that wants to stay in a building with vaulted ceilings and large windows that, just represent the history of the building.
Rooms in Polaris Hall are now available. Other parts of the hotel are still under construction. Reservations can be made at hotelursa.com.